All right, friend, let's be honest here. Are you scrolling right now? Yes, that's what I mean. Are you maybe hiding in the bathroom for just 5 minutes of peace? Well, it's good if you're listening to my podcast. That's different than scrolling. But let me tell you, here's the problem: that every ping, that every buzz, that every ding, whatever the sound is on your phone, it sends a message to your brain: emergency, emergency. And it fires off all these stress hormones. It may feel like excitement to you, but it's stress hormones that are coming up. And no wonder you feel tired and you feel fried. But here's the big surprise, and it is not another app. Your body is begging for a reset. It is not another app. Even though I love apps, I know you love apps. They have made our life, I think, in a lot of ways, much easier. But it's not another app, Mama. It's a tree. And I know you're probably going, oh my goodness, this lady's totally crazy. But I'll tell you how I know, because ever since I was a child, the forest has pulled me, has called me. And I spent hours and hours. I, of the 4 children, spent every waking moment in the forest that backed up to our backyard. And I had such a delicious arrangement or assortment of trees and shrubs to play in. My sister, on the other hand, she was happiest when she was curled up with a book, but not me. Let me have that freedom. Let me get out into the forest. I had a whole hillside of rhododendron and mountain laurel, and I would climb in those branches. If you're familiar with them, they just usually scroll down along the ground, and I would crawl in there, and inside there would be my little green chapel. And to this day, my grandchildren do the exact same thing with this really huge rhododendron bush I have on my hillside. And I love watching them do that. Nobody could see me, and I could see everything from there. Again, it was my hidden chapel of green. And then there was the pine forest, and I loved it, especially on a hot summer day. The smell of the pine needles almost baking or roasting in the sun. That fragrance, even today, when it hits me when I'm out in a pine forest, I immediately get transported back to that little 8-year-old girl walking barefoot in the woods and having such a marvelous and wonderful time. I think what's interesting is when I look at myself compared to my 3 siblings, I am the calm one, by far the calmest. I am the one with the most joy. That's not to brag. It's just stating a fact that I happen to be the more cheerful one, the more joyous, and definitely the more peaceful one. The forest wasn't just where I played. It was where my soul learned to rest. And I can remember, especially in the summertime, going out into the forest all by myself and running around the oak trees and the hickory trees and hunting around for the little sassafras saplings, because then it was easy for me to dig up those roots, and we'd bring them in and we would make our little root beer out of that. And years later, when I was in middle of downtown Atlanta at Georgia Baptist Hospital School of Nursing, I longed for that forest, but all I had were cars and parking lots and sirens. But there was a tree, a really special tree right outside of the gym. And I would go down, and when no one was around, I would climb up that tree, and I would sit up in that tree, and I would talk to the Lord. I would pray. Sometimes I would sing. I would just be happy with being in that tree. And oh goodness, those nights when there was a full moon, it was glorious because I could see the moon as it was peeking through the leaves. I loved doing that. I could watch the other students come and go, and nobody knew. Even to this day, I don't think I've ever told my roommate, but I have a call with her in the morning, so I'm going to tell her that I used to do that. I don't think she knows that I used to do that. Oh my goodness. Being in nursing school and working in the hospital 24 hours a week, you can imagine how tightly strung my nervous system was. And I needed that reset, even in the winter. I needed that reset of being in a tree. Of course, the leaves weren't there in the winter, but I still had those branches and just soaking up what trees give to us. And I didn't know at the time what I was doing, but I was actually practicing forest bathing. Now I know the term, but I think that term goes back not that many years actually since they coined that term. And it's what they call in Japan Shirin Yoku, forest bathing. Isn't that beautiful? I love it so much. And because when I was a child, my girlfriend and I used to climb under the trees after a rain, and then we'd shake the trees and all of that rain would come down. So when I first heard the term forest bathing, that's exactly where I went back to, standing under a tree with all the raindrops coming off of it. Forest bathing is not hiking, it's not exercise, it's not doing yoga in the woods. All of those are beautiful things to do, but it's just being among the trees, awake to your senses. And here's the kicker. Spend just 15 minutes in the forest and your stress hormones, they decrease by 12%. Your blood pressure lowers. And most people these days, or many people are on high blood pressure medication. Lower your blood pressure. Your heart rate slows. And your immune system gets stronger, which is just incredible. Why does this happen? Because trees release oils, essential oils, basically phytoncides. And it's their own immune system. It's invisible, but it's powerful. And when we breathe them in, our bodies respond. Oh, I can just feel it right now, even though I'm sitting in my office with no trees around me right here. As soon as I finish with my recording, I'll be out there in those trees again. Because when we breathe them in, our bodies respond. Cortisol drops. That's the stress hormone. Adrenaline lowers. That's sort of like the excitement hormone. And these natural killer cells that fight illness, they rise. And who doesn't want to be able to do that to protect ourselves from the viruses that are out there? It's as if the trees are whispering, come up and further in, come further up and further in, to echo C.S. Lewis's invitation in the last battle. Yeah. So let me walk you through it right now. Find a tree, and it can be the tiniest little tree. It doesn't have to be big. Maybe it's a tree that you have actually growing inside your house. Maybe you live in an apartment, you don't have any trees around. I don't know, maybe you live in the desert. But if you can, find a tree and hug it. And I mean really hug it. Don't just pat it and, oh yeah. No, give it a nice big hug. And just let those phytoncides just be absorbed into your breathing and even into your skin. Wrap your arms around the trunk and feel its steady strength. It's amazing. It's so grounding when we do that. Slide your hand along the bark. Is it grooved? Is it rough? Is it smooth? Is it like the birch tree? Notice the texture under your fingers. Now close your eyes. Breathe in and stay there as long as time will allow you to. The air may be sharp with pine or earthy with moss. Perhaps it's sweet with leaves warming in the sun. And tilt your head back. And I want you to look up. We so often forget to look up, but look up and look up into that canopy of leaves with that sunshine shining through it. And you'll see the dappled light. And it's another invitation to come further in and further up. That moment is if the trees again are whispering to us, come further up and further in. And I'm passing this on to my grandchildren. Here's one thing I love to do when the baby is upset. I take her outside. We go into the forest. Well, I'm sitting right in the middle of a forest, so it's super easy for me to do that. We go into the forest, and I put her little hand on the tree, and immediately she calms, and she stops crying, and she stops fussing. She just calms down. One day I was out in the woods we were just right on the pathway that's on the edge of my forest, and my granddaughter at the time was 6. And she stopped and she looked around and she said, "Oh, Mimi, this is the most beautiful forest I have ever seen." Oh, I will never forget that. It brings tears to my eyes as I think about that now, because now they too are participating in this dance of nature, the sway of the branches, the rustle of leaves, the bird song above. And I taught them, when you see those leaves rustle, ripple in the wind, I want you to think that that's the Holy Spirit moving through those trees, because He is always with us. And I see that they're not only forest bathing, They're bathing their imagination. I love it because bathing our imagination is so important. I think C.S. Lewis talks about how his imagination was baptized when he first read George MacDonald's book, Phantastes, which is an adult fairy tale. So think about that. Baptizing our imagination. I think a lot of Christians today are so afraid of imagination. They're afraid of the enchanting world. But you know what? It is the world that God has created for us. And there is enchantment. And even if you will allow me to use the word magic, and that's why I love reading C.S. Lewis, George MacDonald, and J.R.R. Tolkien. All three of those authors just bathe my imagination. I love it so much. Whenever the kids are starting to squabble in the house, I'll just say, okay, I'm going on a forest walk. And I tell you what, shoes, boots, they're flying because each child is scrambling to get their shoes and boots on so they can get out the door with me and go on this forest walk. And they always say, Mimi, can we play hide and seek? And we do. And you know what? Their favorite hiding place is in the rhododendron, that big bush. I have not climbed into that rhododendron, but maybe one of these days I will. They really invited me to do that, and I just need to do that, to get down on their level and to play like they play. Yes, again, C.S. Lewis talking about Phantastes, how his imagination was baptized. That story was also set in a forest where the trees were alive. I really encourage you to read fairy tales for adults, and I would start with George MacDonald. Phantastes is a more difficult one to understand, but start with The Light Princess or Princess and Curdie. I'm not know if I'm getting the titles right, but look up George MacDonald and start to read for yourself and for your children these marvelous fairy tales, because our imaginations are being washed and renewed and made alive again. So here's my challenge to you for the week. Put your phone down. That's hard. I know. I fully understand that. Find a tree, hug it, rub your hand on it, smell it, look all the way up. See that invitation to come further up and further in. And moms and friends, I want you to know your phone is not going to bring you that sense of peace, nor is it going to bring about a stronger immune system, nor is it going to lower your blood pressure. But the trees, the forest bathing, yes, that can do it for you. Now go have a blessed day, have a salubrious day. And just remember, not only do I love you, but I like you for always.